Since the outbreak of the global COVID pandemic last year, many people have had to adjust to their work environments and rhythms to keep themselves and others healthy. By now, most of us will have gotten used to working from home or even are thinking of going back to the office for a few days. My life has also changed since last year. I left my long-term position at an international publishing house and spent some time reflecting on my future. I tidied our home according to the method of Marie Kondo, a Japanese tidying expert famous for her best-selling books and her Netflix series. Her method focuses on tidying per category instead of per room. My name is Astrid Engelen, and in this presentation, I will walk you through the principles of how you can apply the method to create your ideal home office. For me, the tidying process fit perfectly to the stage of life that I was in. As a new mother to a now almost 3-year-old, I had to adjust my life-work balance in recent years. My work was still fine, but I felt I had come to a standstill and could no longer fulfill my full potential at that company. Once I had finished tidying our home and had gone through all of my possessions, I felt liberated and no longer afraid to step outside of my comfort zone and explore new avenues. In fact, I got more and more excited about all of the opportunities the future held for me. At the end of last year, I didn't know exactly what I would be doing, but I was sure of one thing. I was going to enroll in the course to become a certified Marie Kondo consultant. The virtual course was held in March, and I set up my own business in April. So far, I've had the pleasure to work with several clients and experience the impact tidying has had on their lives. It is a form of self-care, really. To take out time in our busy schedules to really reflect on what's good and what can be discarded, with gratitude. A yoga teacher once said to me, "Oftentimes it seems like we are human doings instead of human beings." Taking the time to care for your belongings equals taking time to care for your own well-being and for what truly matters to you. Before we begin investing time in the physical and digital organizing, we first think of our vision. How does an ideal workday look for you? What are you doing? How does your work environment look? How do you feel? What is your purpose? What is important to you? When answering these questions, try to be as detailed as possible. By imagining your ideal life, you can identify the elements that you can emphasize and those that might be optimized. Of course, not everything in your work will make you happy. For instance, you might not get super excited when you need to make a financial report, but the result of insights gained out of that report will be beneficial to your employer or client, and you would have made a valuable contribution. Then you will feel accomplished and happy. I will walk you through my ideal workday to give you an idea. So I wake up a little before the rest of the family. I feed the cat, shower, and get dressed. I make coffee and do some small tasks like meal planning or sending out a few emails. Once everybody is up, I have breakfast together with my family, my husband, and my daughter. I feel relaxed and energized and ready to work. Then I'll either drop my daughter off at the daycare, go to my co-working space, go to a client, or work from home. When I work at home, I make sure there is no pile of laundry or anything else inside that might distract me. I open the windows for fresh air, take my laptop out of its designated cupboard, as well as a pen and a notepad, and put it on the table. Beside me is another cup of coffee. I take a moment to be grateful for my life and for the liberty I have to craft my day as I see fit. I put on some music and dedicate a few hours to the tasks that will be most beneficial towards achieving the goals I have set out in my planning. When most of the specific task is done, I'll take a little break, have some tea and fruits, reflect on what I've done so far. Then I'll fine-tune my work and have lunch. I make sure to sit down and consciously enjoy my food without doing anything else. besides maybe chatting to my husband or other freelancers I work with at the co-working space. If the weather is good, after lunch I will go for a walk in the park or the nearby city forest. If the weather is bad, I might do some chores in the house or go grocery shopping. In the afternoon, I spend some time reading up on industry news, checking in with my networks, or doing some less demanding tasks like administration while cuddling our cats. In the evening, I know that my thinking capacity has passed its peak, so I relax and enjoy my free time, having cleared away my laptop, notepads, and other gadgets so I can enjoy being totally offline. Now, let's put this in practice and start with how you can organize your physical space. In this presentation, I will focus on the home office. You might already be going back to the office some days, or you might use a co-working space, or even feel the need to flee to your local library if your home is not suitable for working at a specific time. I think the most important aspect of your work environment is that you feel comfortable there. At one point during the renovation of our home last year, there were particularly noisy construction works going on. Our neighbor had a video meeting with her colleagues and she had to escape to her closets. Luckily, she and her colleagues found it pretty funny and it was an incidental occurrence, so it was fine. Should you be disturbed by noise in any way, it is worthwhile to invest in decent noise-canceling earplugs or headphones. If you share a home with others, it is best if you can find a place to sit where you can shut the door to indicate you are working. I know this is not always possible. If it isn't, talk to your housemates or find alternative working arrangements. Also, be kind to one another. This pandemic has affected us in many ways, so if you are in a call and the situation is not quite ideal, you may feel uncomfortable and vulnerable. This is okay. We all have lives, housemates, family members, pets, neighbors with loud hobbies or a different taste in music. In many cultures, the ideal situation is silence and peace and quiet. When we went to our neighbors last year to inform them of our upcoming renovation, I was particularly struck by the reaction of one of my upstairs neighbors. She is a Syrian refugee and was at that time pregnant with her second child, while also having to care for her 2-year-old as a single mother. I felt bad about having to put her through so much noise, but she said, "No, don't worry. In Syria, we like to hear our neighbor's presence. It means we are surrounded by life and happiness." Now, every time I hear some noise in the neighborhood that would have bothered me previously, I think of her words and approach life with a different mindset. Having said that, let's dive into the various categories you might encounter in your home office. Following the KonMari method, the tidying process contains 5 categories: clothes, books, papers, kimono, which is Japanese for miscellaneous, and finally sentimental items. By collecting and going through all the items in one category, you will decide whether or not to keep something or to say goodbye to it. The aim is to keep only those items that spark joy for you, that make you feel happy. By following this order, you will learn along the way what joy means for you. By the time you arrive at the sentimental category, it will be easier to make decisions. For the home office, you can follow this process and leave out the clothes category. The aim is not to get rid of as many things as possible, but to start matching up your possessions to fit with your ideal work life. The tidying process might seem like an annoying chore, but when you think of it as creating an environment in which you can thrive, I'm sure you will be more motivated. When you care for yourself at first and set yourself up for success, you will also be able to better care for those around you. By now, I hope you're starting to get super excited. So please go out and collect all work-related books from every corner of your home into one spot. Probably many of them have not been touched in a while. Dust them off and then tap the stacks of books to awaken them. This is also a good opportunity to clean the shelves. Pick up each and every book and observe how you feel. Ask yourself the following questions. When did I buy it? How many times have I read it? Do I want to read it again? Was it a gift? If so, do I remember who gifted it to me? What role does this book play in my life? Is it still relevant now? Would I buy it again? If you still plan on reading a certain book, set it aside and give yourself a deadline to finish reading it. Oftentimes, people are afraid to say goodbye to items. The reasons usually are either an attachment to the past or a fear of the future. The aim is to keep only what suits your life at this moment. In the case of books, you might discover you have some study books from way back when that have served their purpose. Or you might find you have a collection of books on a topic that is no longer relevant to your work today. If something was a gift and it does not particularly make you happy, you may discard it with gratitude. The thing with gifts is that the gesture of gift giving is not held within that particular physical item. The gesture has been received by you the moment you got the book, so you should feel no guilt in saying goodbye to it. Same goes for other items. The memory is inside of you, not in that particular physical item. Another common fear is to say, I might need it one day. Yes, you might, but in that case, can you find an alternative? Borrow it from someone? Ask yourself realistically, what is the worst that can happen once I have discarded this particular item? Also, sometimes people will say, but this was really expensive. Well, the money is gone anyway. You can try to sell the item, which will allow you to retrieve some of the money. The benefit of this is you will have more room and more cash. If you can't be bothered with the hassle of trying to sell things, donate or recycle it. Believe me, you will feel so good afterwards. Once you have gone through all of your books, you should have two piles, the ones you will keep and the ones you will sell, recycle, or donate. For the latter, I suggest you do this as quickly as possible. In the selection of books you will keep, there will be some that you want to read or reread. Put these together in a designated spot. When organizing your books again, aim to stand them upright. If you have a large stack of books, the one at the bottom will carry all of the weight of the ones on top, and it will be difficult to take it out. Going on to papers. The basic rule is to discard everything. Shocking, perhaps? Obviously, everybody has a different lifestyle. So if you wish to hold on to papers that serve your work's purpose, go right ahead. However, I again ask you to be realistic about how you use your papers. The paper category contains documents, seminar and course materials, and business cards. Once you collect them all and start sorting, there should be three piles. First, pending. Second, save because you have to. Third, save because you want to. The pending category will contain papers that require action. So as not to forget about these, store them in an upright filing box and put them somewhere you can see them. Set aside a specific time to deal with those items. The subcategory of save because you have to might contain contracts or administrative papers that need to be kept for a certain amount of time. You can consider digitizing them if possible. Otherwise, save them in an upright box and put them on a shelf or in a drawer if it is deep enough. You don't need to access these papers often, but you want to make sure that they are easily accessible and visible, so you don't waste time searching for them if you need them. The third category of save because you want to will contain papers that you want to keep because they make you happy. If there are any sentimental papers, set them aside for the last category. After this decluttering session for your papers, in future, be mindful of what comes in. Do you really need to print something? Do you even need to keep the file at all? What would be the worst thing that could happen if you didn't have this document? For example, when I left my previous company, I had accumulated tons of business cards, also from people I don't even remember meeting. I kept none of them. I have contact details of the people I'm regularly in touch with, and if I don't, I can easily find them. I'm pretty ruthless when it comes to papers and try to go paperless as much as possible. This is an example of my personal lifestyle, but yours might be completely different. By now, we're moving along nicely and have gotten to the category that contains many subcategories, the miscellaneous items, called komono in Japanese. Think of office supplies, such as pens, sticky notes, paper clips, scissors, etc. Then you'll have electronics, such as devices, chargers, and earphones. Depending on your work, you may have certain job-specific items. This could be anything from, for example, promotional materials or lanyards you have collected from events over the years. You may also have personal care items, such as hand cream or essential oils. Finally, you might find foodstuffs like snacks. For this broad category, you can divide the items in various subcategories and then go through them. You might find that you have a ton of pens, or 6 pairs of scissors. Choose those that you like best and be honest about the amount of stock you need of all the consumables, such as sticky notes and paper clips. If you don't remember what a certain electrical cord is for, you can probably say goodbye to it. Once you have sifted through everything, store the items by grouping them in the subcategories and choose a designated spot. If you have drawers, use them to their full potential by putting boxes and jars inside of them so you can organize everything, making it easily accessible and visible. Think about putting together a bento box with compartments. You can use boxes from smartphones and jam jars for smaller items or pens. Remember that a clear desk is easier to clean than a cluttered desk. So give some thought to the best way to store your possessions. Finally, now that you have gotten really good at deciding what you want to keep and what no longer serves your professional life at this moment, you can start dealing with any sentimental items you may have within your home office. Perhaps you will have photos or artwork from your children or memorabilia. You can now choose how you would like to spruce up your office space. In addition to sentimental items that make you happy, it can simply be adding a plant, or maybe you'd like to add a pop of color. Remember the vision you have. Make it a conscious effort to align your physical space with your ideal life, and that way care for yourself and enjoy your work life. There are many aspects to your digital life. After having dealt with your physical space, you should have an idea about the basic principles to the KonMari method and how to apply it to other parts of your life. The main guidelines are: imagine your ideal lifestyle, categorize, sort, and organize so that you have a good overview. And most of all, be critical. Think about how you use technology to serve your life. With regards to documents, you can go through them and sort them in categories. You don't need a ton of folders. Think about how you use your files and then sort them according to the system that works for you. For instance, you can have the following folders: current projects with subfolders for each one, records containing policies and procedures you need regular access to, and saved work of previous projects that still come in handy for future work, such as a presentation or a report you did that can be partially used again. The same guidelines apply to dealing with email. Organize in a small number of manageable folders and think carefully whether or not to save it. Email is quite a challenging category. We spend so much time in our daily lives on dealing with email, it is sometimes hard to find time to work on specific projects or tasks. In my opinion, dealing with email mostly comes down to setting boundaries. For yourself, for instance, by only checking email once or twice a day. I would recommend not reading email first thing in the morning, because that will distract you from the tasks you had set out to do. Again, this is very personal for me. You will need to see what works best for you, also according to your energy levels. You can discuss email etiquette with your coworkers or clients if you feel comfortable with that, and also talk about an alternative way to contact you in case of an emergency. While sorting documents and email, if you find it difficult to decide whether to keep something or not, you can ask yourself the following questions. Do I need this to get my job done? Will this provide me with guidance or inspiration for future work? Does this spark joy? If the answer is no to all, delete it. Going forwards, it will be easier to stay organized when you have the basic infrastructure in place. There is a lot to say about living with technology. The most important thing to remember is how you want the technology to work for you. Let's consider networks. Obviously, networking is beneficial to your professional life. If you feel like you are spending too much time on certain networking sites, though, evaluate how you use them, think back to your ideal life, and consider making adjustments. You may need to reframe your mindset. Instead of collecting as many LinkedIn connections or Twitter followers you can, think about which connections are truly valuable to you. You might want to curate your feeds or switch off notifications. If you want to stay updated on industry news, for instance, save whatever you see coming in a reading list and set aside a time to enjoy reading. I know in this presentation there is not enough time to go into digital decluttering in detail at the moment. So if you want to read more, I suggest the following books. Joy at Work by Marie Kondo and Scott Sonnenschein. How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. If you want to talk more about this topic, you can get in touch with me. I could go on and on talking about tidying, so do drop me a line if you want to talk more. There will also be a question and answering session after this, so I'll see you there.
So I hope you got inspired to have a look at your own office setup and see where you might optimize some things. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and I will see what I can answer. Yadu asks, how long does a typical decluttering project take? Of course, it's also very personal. For instance, at the moment, I'm working with 2 clients who are dealing with their personal administration. And it can take a long time because there might be a lot, depending on the age of the person. You might have accumulated decades of personal administration, depending on where you have worked. Maybe after you have changed jobs, you have discarded much of your previous work. But if you have still a lot left, then it could take, I would say, for administration, maybe a few sessions of 3 hours, depending on the amount. But since it's very personal that everybody has their own pace, and as a professional organizer, I also respect people's pace. Because it will vary for sure. Bridget asks, I am a book hoarder. They are charged with emotional attachments. Help me. Yeah, I also get this sometimes because the first client I worked with was actually my mother-in-law. And she also loves books and she had a really difficult time saying goodbye to them. But actually, the aim is not to say goodbye to as many books as you can. It is a session of reflection. When you pick up the book, you need to feel how the book makes you feel. If it is very emotional to you, you might change it to the sentimental category, which will be last. And by the time you get to the last category, you might have already got some practice and it will be easier to decide whether it is realistic to keep it, yes or no. Maybe if there are gifts, it would also be very emotional. But then please remember that if it is a gift, it is already received by you. So there's no need to keep the physical item. Unless if all of your books spark joy for you, then you just keep them all. But the thing is, going back to Bridget's question, just be honest to yourself. And you don't have to go through them all. Maybe first start with the ones that are already older, or you don't really remember having read them. You can pick them up again and see how it makes you feel. Or maybe you just subcategorize them. For instance, you can go back to sorting them by topic, or you can go to the author and then select only the favorite ones from one author. So there are many ways, but I would be happy to talk to you some more about what the problem really is. Vinyl, yes, of course. You can sort, yes, definitely. The aim is not to throw it all away, but just to treat all of your possessions, if they make you super happy, treat them with respect. So also, for instance, vinyl, you can sort them in a nice way, and you can put them so that you can look at them and feel all warm and fuzzy, and maybe put one of the albums in the front so you can look at it and think back to the memories that you have and put it on again on a Sunday morning. So just treat your possessions with respect if you decide to keep them. Kirsty asked, are there any items you think especially worth investing in for home offices? The opposite of decluttering. This is actually very common that people start to think about organizing solutions before they have gone through the whole process. So first of all, I recommend to go through this process. But for organizing for the home office, I like these things where you can put the papers upright. And you can also look to that they are made by wood or bamboo, that they are a bit natural, but this is my personal taste. For you, it can be very different. And you can also have a little boxes that you can put in your drawers, like drawer dividers. Those are super handy. So if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, you can contact me, and I really love talking about this. And don't worry if you are nervous about getting rid of things. This is not the purpose at all. Sundar says, really helpful. We'll get to decluttering ASAP. In personal life, how to get rid of stuff that has emotional value. Well, yeah, you don't really have to if it still means a lot to you. It's just a thing that if it has an emotional attachment and it doesn't make you feel quite right, or it has a kind of a negative connotation for some reason, then even if you say goodbye to an item that has emotional value, as long as you pay respect to it and say goodbye to it with gratitude, or even make a ritual out of it. For instance, for papers, maybe you will have a session with some friends and you burn your old lover's love letters in the fireplace. Then you make it a fun ritual that will also be of value to you. And other items, as long as you discard them with gratitude, then it should be perfectly fine. Maybe never a perfect folder structure for organizing digital files. At least mine is constantly developing. Is it worth restructuring again and again? Maybe okay to accept imperfection, asks Stephanie Dawson. Yeah, of course, definitely. If that works for you, then it is completely fine. And otherwise, if it doesn't work for you, if it is inconvenient to go back all of those years that you have accumulated, you can also move everything to the archive and then start new with a few folders that make sense to you. Let's see if there's more questions. Okay, so thank you very much, and please get in touch because I would like to help you make your home office as happy as possibly can. Even though it's work, it's still a very big part of our lives, so we should cherish what we have around us and with what we surround ourselves. So thanks a lot.